So this, when I think about Odyssey, the thing I almost always think about is the origin, like the genesis, and where we were as a family, because we were public school, parents, and we were raised in public school. We went to public school, and we wanted. It was, for some reason, it was a value of ours that our kids be in public school.
It wasn't ours.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And so so we were just kind of like, no, this is the way we're going to do it, and we're going to be socially conscious, and we're going to engage with community, and we're going to be a part of what's going on here.
Right.
And we had a really tragic thing happen with our oldest daughter in a public school environment that was not, like the primary result of public school system or anything like that, but it was very much a product of the reality of how public schools exist and thrive, and the way that they protect, and the things and the limitations that they have. And so we felt like we were in a crisis because our daughter really was in a crisis. And so that was the first time I ever considered the possibility of paying someone to do school for kids.
Yeah.
And my brother and I were talking, and he somehow, through a friend that worked in a building next to his, heard about this place called Odyssey. And we were like coming up. It was like we were in a pretty bad spot.
We had no idea what we were going to do.
And so I started looking into it, asking some of my friends about it. Well, turns out all of my friends, most of the people in my community, totally know the headmaster, the guy who's starting this school, and some of the board members and some of those things. And so I'm getting all this input about how great this guy is and how amazing it all is. But if I'm being honest, when I walked in, it was just about, I got to get out of this crisis, and I'm going to take my friend's advice as true and just see how this goes.
It was scary.
Because I didn't have a celebrations of learning to attend, or a way to shadow a kid for,
That's
to
right.
see.
This was the first year.
Yeah, it was the first time. And so he was taking big risks doing what he was doing, and I felt like we were taking big risks doing it with him. And here's what's crazy is, looking back now, I think about the experience you guys are describing as a result of some of those risks that we're taking at the beginning. And my children are different because those risks were taken. Like, there is a night and day difference. And I'm not saying Odyssey transformed my children, because I don't believe that. I believe it was a product of everything in their environment, but that was a very particular part of their environment that was altered and changed, and set them on a trajectory that was different. And I remember the first time we talked to you two about it at Cholino's downtown in Bricktown. And we're sitting there talking, and you asked, what's the deal with this Odyssey school? And I said, Lindley, Chrisman, come down here, down from the end of the table. And I said, let them answer your question. And by the time they were done, y'all were like, where do we write the check?
You know what? You called right then. You were like, I think I'm going to give him a call real quick. And we watched as he was like, hey, we've got a potential family. And that's what I loved. I was like, wait, what? You're going to call the head of the school like on a Sunday? And you did. And I mean, that's where it's.
And then
we were walking out to the car. Have we got a response yet? Like, we were ready.
I know. So what did they say that?
Well, I mean, the thing that's kind of the same deal is we were a bit in a crisis with our oldest child too, and the same exact story. Like, we grew up going to public school. That was all we were going to do, and it was mirrored their story. And then got in that scenario, and it was not working at all. It was he was struggling, and we met with him multiple times, and it just nothing was changing, and we kind of he was just really falling through the cracks. And the exact same, panic mode, like, what are we going to do? And then we've been longtime friends, so just kind of met with them, and they started talking about it, and it was that. And I loved the fact that they weren't giving me a sales pitch on Odyssey. They were like, well, see for yourself, because we've known their family for so long. And they came down and just, I don't know what to say. They were so honest and eloquent and mature in the way that they were describing what was happening in their schooling, and just the eye contact, just all of it. From I think at the time your oldest was not a freshman maybe, and your youngest was maybe sixth grade. And we both were like, what? And we live far. We live way north Edmond, so at first it's like a school downtown. I don't know about that, but that's how desperate we were for something different.
Absolutely.
And I love, I don't think I'd ever thought about it the way that you just said it, is we have had the privilege of going to a celebration of learning, having people shadow. But you all, that was a leap of faith. Huge. And we wouldn't be here if it weren't for the families that did that at the very beginning.
Yeah.
Right.
You know?
And I think we could say the same thing about philosophically the approach he's taking to education is as big of a risk and as big of a leap of faith and and that is a product of what we're experiencing with our kids, right?
Yeah.
That boldness that we see in them, their ability to articulate their ideas that are actually their thoughtful ideas, not our ideas that have really repaired it out.
I mean, I've learned
Yeah.
way more from my kids from
Jeez.
them being at Odyssey than
Golly.
they have learned from me as, like, educationally speaking. I mean, I'm just like, wow, I've actually never even thought about that, which is embarrassing. But I've had to say that many times,
Yeah.
you know?
I've had to
And-
Google so much of what size said. I'm like, I don't think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, our experience is the application's been amazing.
Yeah.
Our kids are thinking. I'm different because of it.
Yeah.
I mean, I literally had one of my major paradigms shifted because of my oldest daughter coming home every day and just demanding answers to the hardest questions that I've never thought about because I'm not a female. And I would never, I mean, and it's shame, shame to my discredit and to my shame, should have thought about,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and selfishly didn't because it didn't affect me.
Right. Yeah.
And so I'm having this whole cultural experience all because my daughter does care about this and is in an environment where she can foster and thrive to grow towards that,
Yeah.
not towards what they want her to grow towards. And that's changing my life.
Right.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's
How
amazing.
huge is that? That's that your child's school can open up your world,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, I had a very small box around that.
Yeah.
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 Totally. And just even, relationally, like thinking, a lot of times pulling your kid, out of public school, a fear of ours might be, if they're going into this, is it going to be diverse, or is it going? Are they all going to kind of look the exact same? Is it going to be the same type of kid that comes to this school? Not that that's bad, but that was a kind of a thing, a fear of like, okay, is that helpful? But the beauty and the magic about Odyssey also is they're all so different. There's such diversity. So it's not only the kid, what I love is it's not only the kid where, public school or whatever school they were in didn't work for them and they were struggling, but it's also like kids that maybe they were thriving, maybe they academically were doing really well, but they weren't being challenged.
Right.
And I say that really, our kids are very different, and our oldest came to Odyssey for a completely different reason than our youngest. Our youngest, I always like to say, was just doing fine in school. I mean, he was okay, he was fine. He would have been completely fine to have gone through and graduated. I mean, he didn't have to struggle academically, and he had friends, but it was just like there was just something missing. I mean, he was just kind of going through the motions and doing okay. But he was able to watch all the things that were happening and the opportunities for his older brother, and he was like, I want that, why wouldn't I get that? And just thinking for us as parents, like, yeah, I mean, that's what you want for your kids. It's not only in a crisis to find something different, but also like, is this good enough? Like,
Flourishing.
are they flourishing? That's exactly right.
Yeah.
It's like I don't know how much this will make sense to anyone, but if you're in business and you're looking for a skill position, there's things that are teachable. There's things that are knowable that you can learn and develop with experience over time. There are some things that just either a person has it or they don't. There's this thing, and it's hard to explain. And it's like the thing that Odyssey has is the thing that you can't teach.
Yeah.
Right.
And there's things that we can build and grow around this thing that isn't the most important thing, I think.
Right.
And that's kind of the way I've been explaining it and viewing it and relating that to people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's perfect.